Creating a chart which visually displays your information is one of the best ways to show what you're looking at. Humans are primed to get their information from colour and movement, pictures, not text and numbers. So, first select the data that you want to display and then click on the Charts heading and then Insert Chart. I'm just going to start with the first suggestion, the clustered column. Notice down the bottom there is a Save as Template button. When I've created the chart and set it up to look exactly the way I want it, I can then save it as a template. So the next time that I need to do this type of graph on this type of information, I don't have to go through the whole process from scratch. So this is what Excel gives me. Wonderful, not. Click on the utterly incomprehensible chart and then right-click. Options open up. You can change the type of chart to any of the other types. Pie charts and line charts are two of the most commonly used. You can also format the chart to make things clearer. This chart has so much detailed text in it, the only way to make it work is to make it much bigger. But now it's covering up my data. One way to fix that is to put it on the next sheet. It will still refer back to the original data, so that if you change or even take away some of the data, it will reflect in the graph. So here it is on sheet 2. I simply clicked on it on sheet 1, selected cut, and then went to sheet 2 and pasted it. You'll also see a lot of formatting options have become lit up to help me alter the look of the graph. So now I've put the chart back onto sheet 1 because I want to show how taking some of the data out can simplify it and make it clearer. First, I copied all of the original data and put it down below so I don't lose it. If you click in different areas of the chart, and it selects it, and it also tells you what you're working on. So I click over on the left, that selects the vertical axis, which is income. Now, I've removed some of the data from within the parameters of the chart. First names, height, and for the moment, city of birth are really not germane to what I'm trying to show. So that makes the chart a bit cleaner. Then I selected the vertical axis and right-clicked on it to open options. I'm going to format the axis to change the axis from the default, which is 0 to 250,000. I'm going to change it to 50,000 to 200,000, and you'll see a big difference. So I clicked on Format Axis, and from the options on the left, I'm changing the scale. To change the scale, you can type in the figures you want, or click on Minimum and Maximum. Next, I select the horizontal axis, and I'll change the text, format it, to make it bigger, bolder, and easier to read. The horizontal axis is now clearer, but the names are a bit squeezy. If you click anywhere in the middle of the graph, in a white space, you'll get what's called the plot area. I'm going to grab those blue handles and resize it a bit to spread the names out. That's looking better. And now, as the income is in both the main legend up the top and up the vertical axis, actually spelt out in the numbers, I don't really need the legend on the right. So I click on the word, and you see that the grab handles become active. Then I just delete and it goes away without affecting any of the rest of the graph. Just a reminder, this is only affecting the look of the graph, not its content. A chart about income should have dollar signs, shouldn't it? It makes it crystal clear. So anything you do to the original cells will show up in the graph. Formatting the cells in column G to reflect dollar value shows up immediately in the graph, and I also make the graph figures bold. So this graph is now much clearer but still fairly traditional. You can show the income figure right above each blue column. It's called the data point, and you can dispense with the grid lines and the vertical axis figures altogether. Now, many people don't approve of dispensing with the grid lines or the vertical axis, but it's a matter for personal decision. So let's see how that looks. By double-clicking on the graph to make it active and then just hover the mouse over any of the blue lines, it shows the data point associated with that column. Clicking once on any of the blue columns will select them all. I'm going to show the data labels directly above the columns, and as I said earlier, I'm going to get rid of the grid lines and the vertical axis. So right-clicking on the blue columns, this is the dialog that comes up. I click on Add Data Labels. So there they are. I'll bold them too. Now to remove the grid lines. Hover your cursor directly over a grid line and then right-click. Don't worry, the delete refers only to the grid lines. And if something goes wrong, what do? Control Z. Grid line's gone, and so is the vertical axis. I don't need it now with the data labels over the columns. I selected the data labels in the same way by just clicking on one of them, which selects all of them, then right-click and Format Font. So I made the labels bigger and bolder. We're nearly there with a big clean graph which states the information clearly. A couple of the names are squeezed together, and so are some of the labels above the blue columns in the centre there. I'll click on the graph again in the plot area and just spread it out a little sideways to fix the names. So as you can see, I've clicked back into the graph to make it active, and then just once in the white area, which is called the plot area, and now we have grab handles. I just need to pull the grab handles on the sides to spread it out a bit sideways. The names and the data labels will spread out a bit more, so they're easier to read. Names spread out, check. Data labels, ditto. Now you can also grab each individual data label and physically move it around. Start by clicking just once on any of the data labels. That will select them all. The next step, then just click once on the data label you want to move and drag it into the position that you want it to be in using the mouse. If you then click on another data label, Excel will just grab that one, as it's got the idea that you want to move them around individually. That's very cooperative. If your data is not as straightforward as the data that I've been using, it can be very handy to have a trend line. They're very popular on, for example, the ABC News Finance section. So I clicked in the blue columns, right-clicked, and selected Add Trend Line. The basic trend line is just a thin black line, but you can jazz it up in a number of ways. Trend lines always start in the lower left and go to the upper right, where it's a rising trend. Now I'm going to use some actual real live data to quickly show you how it's done for real. From the Australian Bureau of Statistics, I just selected Hobart and then clicked on one of the subsets of the data that they collected in the last census, namely religious affiliation by sex. And it looks like this. You'll see that it's pretty dry and it's hard to read. They use Arial font size 8. It's tiny.